right, we made it. John Kosnik, Professor John Kosnik.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here. This is awesome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, man. We've been meaning to do it for a while. So thanks for making the time and coming up.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. This is a cool little. I feel like I got in when it's hitting its peak.
we got a legit studio now, right?
Yeah,
with
it looks cool.
Paintings and yeah, it's cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, so TACFIT certified, it's we'll get to talk a little bit about all this stuff. But yeah, man, it's been great to see your growth and our missing our lunch jiu-jitsu classes, together.
I know, man. That's like my biggest thing is missing that lunch jiu-jitsu. I try to get down here, but it's like a 1 hour turnaround. But so I've been coming at night. But man, that was like, if anything, I think changed my life for the better was that lunch jiu-jitsu, because it's like the way it breaks up your day, and then the ability for me to come without having my family like be on my neck. You know what I mean? Because it's like every time you get out of the house, it's time you're taking away from your kids or whatever.
Right.
But when it was during the day, it was like I could train every day.
It was work time, yeah.
And it was great training every day.
Yeah, you had your Disney crew.
Yeah.
The people from Disney, AD and
Chris Kerrigan.
Chris, that's cool.
We had a couple too. There was a couple guys that I didn't really know. There was a surfing artist, and who's the Russian guy? There was a.
Oh yeah. Not Cosmot. I'm thinking of the the UFC.
Yeah.
Was it Rustan? I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, he went to Pixar, I think. But
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good crew.
Yeah. How did you get working at Disney? How did you end up in LA? You're from Jersey, right?
Yeah, originally from New Jersey. It was interesting. It was I was originally doing web design. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my career. I went into school to do actually TV production.
TV production, and it was this media communications technologies degree. And when I came out, the web was kind of getting big. So we're talking 2003 is when I graduated, and but I got into the web business, and it was just boring. It was just all banks at the time. It was like, it's not as cool as the web is now. There was no iPhones or anything, so it was like it was all like bank websites and like these like real corporate websites. So I went back to school actually and got my animation degree at NYU, and then that was really cool. So that kind of like opened up like some doors of like what I wanted to do. And then originally I thought I was gonna be like a character animator, and my wife and I, we had just got married in like 2006, and I was like, like at the time there was no remote work. There wasn't really that big of a scene in New York. It was more like for animation. Yeah,
for animation. There was like a commercial scene, but it was mostly for like editors or like compositors. So that's not really what I was doing. So I just decided like, let's go move out to LA and see if I can get this career going. And she was a nurse at the time, and she looked for jobs. I couldn't get a job anywhere. And because they're all like, well, you got to be here. Maybe we'll give you some work.
Different times, huh?
Yeah, different times. I didn't have any reel. So like the big thing when you're doing animation is a reel, right? And if you don't have any work, nobody really wants to look at you. They don't care where you come from. They want you to have, a good portfolio. And I didn't have one. I wasn't in any productions. And then my wife actually ended up like looking for jobs, and she was a nurse at the time, and there was a shortage. So she put out 5 jobs and got 5 jobs. So they actually moved us out here as a traveling nurse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we came out here to Torrance at first.
Torrance, okay.
Yeah, so we lived down in the South Bay for a while, for the first time we were here, and so she actually got us out here, and then I kind of hit the ground running, and it's kind of funny. I was actually, my first job in LA was the worst animated film ever produced. It was this one called Food Fight. Right.
Food Fight.
Yeah, and if you look it up, it's like a cult classic. It's a terrible, terrible film, but it was.
What studio was it?
It was Threshold Animation, and it was. I
think I remember something like some kind of. It was like a quick ad somewhere.
Yeah. There's tons of like funny stories from that place, but it was like, it was really a terrible film. It was this guy who was trying to direct it, and it was like. It was originally a whole product placement film, and kind of like fell apart over years. It's if you know about animation, it's kind of like a funny cult thing. So people have a drinking game of how bad it is. But that was my first job, and actually it paid really well actually for a bad animation.
But then I eventually got into this place called Blur Studios, and Blur was like really good. Right now they're doing like Love, Death, and Robots and stuff like that on Netflix, but they're really good. And but they were like, one of their best talents was taking people that didn't really have the name or a career, and they grew them. So if you got into that place, it was kind of a sink or swim kind of company. But if you're talented, they
find the diamonds in the rough. And
they were really, and the people that like when I was working there, the people that are there, they're all like, really, big names now. But it was really like a great place to work. It was kind of like it was down in Venice, on Abercrombie. So it was, but it really kind of, it got me that reel that I wanted. And it was like a really cool place to work. They taught me a lot. I had a guy named Brandon Riza who kind of took me under his wing and showed me how to do like effects work. So that's what I do now is effects work. And so I got better. I got a really good reel from them. And eventually Disney, the problem with that place really was the hours. So I was working, some days I'd work 100 hours a week.
Wow.
We'd sleep over in this back of this place. And
before kids, huh?
Before kids. This is before kids. And that was really the reason I moved to Disney was because I had a kid. I had my first child, Jackson. And it just was unobtainable to work at the place, for the hours that they wanted you to work. So Disney was like, oh yeah, you're doing I was doing some of the better animation work in the industry at that time.
Wow.
We did like game cinematics and stuff like that, and they looked really nice. So I owe that place a lot because it taught me. It was like to me, it was like the Marines of animation. It was like, how do you come in here, be really fast and be really good and really efficient? And it taught me all these great things. And I met a lot of connections through that because, like I said, everybody was there. But it was kind of a place that you got burned out. It was just an hour, working those kind of hours and that kind of fast-paced commercial world was just really tough at the time. So eventually I went to Disney, which was great, and it was it was more of the retirement village. It was totally different pace. They were really into, they were really into the art part of it, but it wasn't the hours went from 100 hours a week to 36, 32.
Really?
Yeah, and it was not that. It was and in the summers Disney you'd have
depending on the time of the year when you
so,
have movies coming out and stuff.
Yeah, so commercial work versus film work is very different. Commercial work, it's every month there's a new project, and you might be working on 3-4 projects, at a time. So different things like that. And then once you start working on a film cycle, it's usually a 2-year cycle. So you're working on the same film for 2 years. Some people less, depending on what kind of.
So that's what you shifted to.
Yeah.
The movie, the films.
Yeah, and then the films that was just a way better lifestyle, So I was able to be with my family and stuff like that. So.
Get Disneyland.
Yeah, get the Disneyland tickets. It was cool too because I started on Frozen. So
oh, no way.
Yeah, so Frozen was my first one, and actually at the time Disney was in the dumps. It was it wasn't doing that well. I remember I think my stock was 60 or something like that at the time, and really Pixar was doing all the work, and I remember not a lot of people going to Disney because it was but they did a movie called Tangled.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of their start
of coming back.
And then, but I was there for Frozen, which was the company started skyrocketing to what it is now. This is even before I think they had.
I think it was the first movie I took my kids to. First animation. Yeah.
Yeah, and
we were movies,
and they thought it wasn't gonna. Even when we were doing Frozen, which was interesting, is they didn't want it to be a musical. The whole time we were there, they're like, "Oh, we don't want it to, we don't want to scare people off that it's a musical." And they were really worried that it was females.
Yeah.
And they were wondering that boys weren't going to watch it.
Yeah.
And they thought it wasn't going to do that good. So it was when it did so good, everybody's like, "Oh man!" And then so the company.
You see all the boys singing the Frozen songs.
Yeah, yeah. And but it was kind of like superheroes, right? Because she had superpowers and stuff. Yeah. And but it was it was such a different change for me because all the stuff that I was doing at Blur was blood and guts, video game stuff, and it was and then it was to the princesses. So, but it was a cool experience to be there at that time.
Yeah.
and little snow little elks and what were they, snowmen, the snowman, what's his name, what was his name?
Olaf.
Olaf. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was cool to be there then. And I'm at DreamWorks now, but I was there for like 7 years. But DreamWorks is funny because it's literally it's like the sister studio. It's almost the same place. It's just across the street.
Disney has such a history, right?
Yeah.
Just such a history with animation and everything else. It was so nice. I got to go with my AD gave us a tour. You were there, right? And just the tour of the place and just where all the all the stuff happens. It's pretty, Alexandre went too.
Yeah, no, that's what's cool about working for that place. It has so much of the culture. It's been around for the longest. And when you tell people you work for Disney, it was like, because they're like, oh, did you do anything I saw? I've seen, and you're like, yeah, Frozen. They're like, oh, well, everybody's seen Frozen.
Yeah,
so it is cool. It is cool for that.
And just ADs like telling my daughters, right? Like they like to draw and stuff. And like, yeah, this is what I always wanted to work at Disney since he was a kid.
Yeah.
And then it's just cool for them to hear that and be like, yeah, you work hard and you have a dream. Things can happen, right?
Yeah. No, I didn't actually think Disney. I wanted to do more like live action effects. That's kind of what I wanted to get into. But working in animation's been awesome. It's just it's a totally different lifestyle. Like because it's not as, they don't get as abused. Like the thing with like live action, like effects artists and stuff. Like I said, that turnaround.
What's live action?
Live action is like Marvel.
Okay.
So like the difference between animation and live action, which is really not much anymore because most of the characters are full like they're all computer generated anyway half the time, So, but
like the Doctor Strange stuff.
Yeah,
with the Metaverse. Yeah, it's
stuff.
Crazy, the effects.
Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff I was like really interested in. But then when I got to Blur, and I started doing like cool cool animation, and then you kind of get into that's kind of your specialty. So like I've been doing animation since then, but really the processes are pretty similar. Just have a video in the back.
Mm-hmm. So it's all animation. I like not animation. What do you call it? The live effects. What's it called?
Live action.
Live action.
Yeah.
And like the Doctor Strange, and it's like it just seems like it's almost like the real stuff, right? Looks like it's real, almost real.
It's like photoreal versus animation could be real pushed. So there's some I do so like the stuff that I do is I'm doing mostly like physical effects. So I'm doing like the magic, and I'll do like the explosions and the destruction and stuff like that. So things explode or whatever. So usually my stuff's always been like in Big Hero 6 and stuff like that. It's always the destruction stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. You look at the old Star Wars, like the Star Wars 1, and they have like the little models and just stuff that they had to do back in those days.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. How far it's gone. It's kind of hit to like this level where most people can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
If I show my wife something, she can hardly tell the difference between like what's real and not. I'm like, nah, that's CG.
Yeah. Wow. So you're from Jersey, right?
Yeah.
You're from Jersey, and you grew up wrestling, right? And you guys shared with me too that you always wanted to have a restaurant, or you were like a chef too.
Yeah.
So tell me, how was it growing up in Jersey?
Yeah, Jersey's cool, man. I mean, I always say because it's the people there are, in my opinion, they're kind of cold. From like difference between California and Jersey is, it's really hard going there your first day. Mm-hmm. But once you kind of get into the towns and you meet the people are awesome. It's just you kind of have to like earn your time in the area. So that's why it's like it's kind of a hard place to like start from there. But I love Jersey. I've always, I grew up there, and it has so many people that like there's so much opportunity like in Jersey. And really the reason is I came out here for opportunity in animation, but I would have probably never left the New York area. But I've learned so much out here. So yeah.
The weather's nicer here, though, huh?
Oh, for sure. The weather's nice. I mean, I don't mind. The thing is I don't know if you ever lived anywhere with the snow.
Well, I went to high school in Staten Island.
Yeah. Okay. So then you remember waking up in the morning and watching that scroll bar to see if your school was canceled.
For sure.
That's probably one of the best things ever when you're a child.
The snow day, yeah.
It's the snow day.
You get to play like the town snowed in.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm moving back, but it's like I was telling my kids, I was like, wait till you see a snow day and you get to sit out there and wait to see if your school name is called. I was like, there's nothing better than that when you're a kid.
Yeah. And different seasons too, right?
Yeah.
Having different seasons. Like we don't have that here so much.
Yeah. And people don't know, man, Jersey's beautiful. Like when you get away from, New York, there's like a little area there that's like Newark and Jersey City and stuff like that. And even Jersey City is really pretty now because they kind of like blew it up with like people. But once you get like a little bit past, it's just all farms and
green.
Like, and green and super lush. There's lots of rivers and stuff like that. So it's a really pretty place to be. It's definitely different in here, but a lot of nature and stuff like that. It's not as mountainy, but it's like hilly.
Yeah, for sure. It's different. It's cool. Like what do they say? Like here in LA or California, like hello. What does that say? Like hello means like fuck you, and then over there it's like fuck you means hello. You know, like the different types of people.
Yeah.
The way it is, Yeah. You have to earn and get. People are more real over there. Here, a lot of people are more fake, right?
Yeah. The pace when I came out here, the pace was so crazy different. Just people like the way that they work and the way that you're supposed to. I'm not saying that people have a bad work ethic here, but the way that New York is it's just so much more like, I don't know, intense, like the way that like the work is and stuff like that. Like
in Jersey too, or just New York City?
I think the tri-state area, because you kind of like put that all together, like that Jersey kind of Connecticut, area. But it was cool coming here because people were a little bit more like, work to live than live to work. And I think that was
work to live to work.
Yeah, it's like I kind of appreciate, wanting to be home. Like when I came out, I was like, all it was about was my career, right? Trying to get somewhere, trying to like lift my career, trying to get to like the next step. But now as I'm older, it's like, you want that time to you really want financially you want it, and you want to go to work and work hard, but you also want to come home and enjoy it with your family and go on trips and not live your whole life to work, So I'm gonna bring a lot of that kind of culture into my life, because I don't think it's super healthy to be like, all about work.
Yeah, for sure. Balance, right? Yeah. Balance. We're talking a little bit about we'll talk about the schools and things like that. You used to wrestle, right?
Yeah.
So
wrestling.
High school
wrestling. Yeah.
Junior high.
Just a little bit. So it's funny. It's my mom wanted me to wrestle. I did karate. I started doing subakdo when I was 4, and I did it till I was in high school.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I had a second degree black belt in that, and I always did karate. And it wasn't really that competitive of karate. It was really because I had ADHD, like real bad. I was like a real crazy kid. But for some reason, if I went to karate, I was like
normal.
I was normal. So my mom loved it. So she would just send me to karate all day, every day. Like, and she would just drop me off after school, and like I'd be in karate, so I'd go.
Same. If it wasn't for jiu-jitsu, like I don't know, I'd be jumping off the walls. And I said jump off the walls.
My first actual job was an instructor in that school, teaching the kids classes. And, she let me teach.
So you're an assistant coach. You're a coach for the school.
And it was like, I don't know. She paid me like $5 an hour. It was actually a woman. And, And she was a badass. Linda Mori, if you look her up. But she was. What was
the name of the school?
It was just Subakdo Murakwan, Linda Mori and Gillette.
Okay.
And I was there, and she was a battle axe, man. And she was one of the only females to have won. She won a lot of tournaments and stuff like that, and she was
cool.
She was real cool, but she gave me a lot of like, she kept me in line, and she taught me how to like stay still and like
discipline
stuff like
you.
that.
Yeah.
So it was cool because I think my mom loved it for that, and then I got like to that. But everybody used to say you should wrestle, and I was like, I don't know, the singlets and stuff like that. Like at the time, I was like, I don't know if I want to wrestle like this and that. But when I started wrestling, I like fell in love with wrestling because it's like was exactly my mentality of like, the thing with wrestling versus martial, like karate, that kind of karate thing. It just was so much more intense in a great way, right? Like it's like jiu-jitsu and wrestling are very similar, but it's like you get in there and all you can think about is wrestling, and like it's like you can go 100% and not hurt each other, and that's what like I loved about it. So I got, the day I went to wrestling, actually I had green hair.
Green hair.
Green hair. I was like a punk skater, right? And I was like, because I was good in karate, but after that, you know, I was like a punk skater that went around all town. And then, so when I went in there, my wrestling coach was like, who's this guy? He's not going to last a day, you know, wrestling, whatever. And he came in, and it was actually his first year of the high school.
What city did you grow up in Jersey?
Long Hill Township. But Watchung Hills Regional was the high school I went to.
Okay.
And actually, the guy that was my coach was Dan Smith. And it was his first year, was my freshman year in high school. And he was one of those people, like, you have certain people in your life that, like, really helped you, you know, and he was one of those people, like, for me, because, like, he even said, like, when I first came in, he was like, I didn't think you were going to last, like, 2 days. But he was like, when you came in, he's like, you tried so hard. And he's like, he gave me, like in after the first year, he's like, I gave you, like this, like, you know, I guess there's like a Rookie of the Year award, you know, it's kind of thing for, like, coming in.
First year of wrestling.
Yeah, first year of wrestling. And he was like, he kind of
cool.
gave me this Rookie of the Year award. And he was like, you know, he's like, I didn't, and he was like, his speech was, I didn't think you were going to last. And he's like, but then I saw how, like, dedicated, like how you tried and brought it in. And he's like, so me and him became, like, you know, really close, because he would take me in the summers to do wrestling. And so, like, the next, like, 4 years was, like, all about wrestling.
Wow.
You know, so, and he, you know, eventually I was, like, the captain of the team, like, senior year, like, varsity and stuff like that. But I think he really, like, straightened me out, because I think, you know, I never did anything that, I wasn't never, like, a really bad kid, but, you know, I think I could have gone either way. You know what I mean? Just the kind of mentality that I had, like, that just, like, getting in trouble. And I think wrestling kind of gave me, like, a really good, like,
outlet.
Yeah, and it made me feel
Focus.
good. It made me feel good, because, you know, when you're, like,
Give you confidence.
Yeah, you're a good wrestler, and the school's, like, all about you. Like, you know, like, I had a time where, like, you know, the principal always hated me. And my brother used to, like, say, like, because he was younger than me, and he used to be like, every time I went to school, they're like, oh, Kosnik kid. Like, another one. Yeah. So they were always fearful of. But then when I started wrestling, it was funny, because it was like the vice president of the school was a wrestler, so he would come and help in the coach, and it really gave me, like, like leadership skills, like, you know what I mean, kind of really helped me out, like, kind of, because I wasn't, like, school wasn't all bad, you know, it was like, oh, this is cool, like, I actually got people who were like, couldn't wait to come and watch us wrestle and stuff like that. So it was really cool, you know. But, you know, I stopped in college, not because I didn't want to do it. It was more because the focus went to professionalism and, you know, wrestling in college.
You couldn't commit fully.
Yeah, and you know, there wasn't really an outlet back then. Like, when that time was there wasn't really, like, anything to do with wrestling past college, except for coach. That was all you could kind of do. Now there's, like, other avenues, right? And there was no jiu-jitsu. Yeah, you could fight, or you can get. There's more jiu-jitsu now. And there's, like, all these things. Like, back then there was only one guy doing jiu-jitsu, and he was doing, like, you know, he was kind of like he was doing, like, MMA, and it was really like, oh, you're gonna fight in a cage, and, like, it never looked like it wasn't like a big thing in the East Coast. Like, it was kind of, like, just thought of as this, like, weird thing that, because it was, I guess this is 99, so I think it was banned in a lot of places.
Yeah,
like,
99,
you know, still,
yeah, for sure.
You know, so there wasn't really a thing.
They moved it to, like, Alabama and, like, Mississippi, and like on the you know, the reservation kind of places.
Yeah, because there was a time when I wanted to fight, but the only way that you could, and preaching to the choir, but the only way you could kind of fight was smokers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That was the only way you could get fights. And I was like,
underground,
I don't know if I want to fight in a basement with some dudes. Like, you know, it's illegal and this and that. And, but man, it's like, when you know, I wish I would have kept doing it through college, but, you know, this is just more career.
So what an experience, you know, for you your first year of for your coach, right?
Yeah. And he ended up taking that school. We were like, all right. And he ended up taking that school, like, state champions. Like, he had, like, all his people. He really grew it up. He was
Dan Smith,
yeah, he was a good coach, and I think he just retired last year. I think he retired more, but I think he had a bunch of state champions. And the big thing he did was he brought in all the kids. Like, the kids. So he started with the kids program and went out and started growing those kids. So they would come to the high school practices, and I saw him growing these kids.
Like the junior wrestling era.
Yeah, and he did a great job, like getting them involved and getting parents involved. So by the end, it's like they wouldn't even buy us new mats and stuff like that. But then once your team starts winning, you know what I mean?
At the beginning, they wouldn't buy it.
They were like, wrestling, like whatever. There was like, they didn't really care for it. Now it's like one of the biggest.
They see the value, and now people are like,
it's the biggest sport at that school now.
Wow.
Because I think they had the most amount of wins and things like that since then. So it was cool to kind of see that kind of go up too, and kind of follow that because, he definitely had his start at the same time I kind of had my start. So it was.
Do you think your martial art background, since you were 4 years old, do you think that helped you, like, just to kind of see things through and work really hard? And, what do you attribute that?
Yeah, for sure. I think it helped my work ethic for sure. And I think for me, team sports, like I said, like sometimes didn't work out because it's like a lot of politics, team sports. And what I really loved about wrestling and then jiu-jitsu and karate is when you go on that mat, it's just you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're accountable. You have your coaches, and you need good coaches, and you need a team to kind of help you prepare. But when you go on and off that mat, that's accountability, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't blame anybody else for your losses. You can't do anything. So it really showed me that, like, I can either succeed or not succeed based on how
sink or swim, right?
Yeah.
Later on in your
And so I always had like a fight like in me, like, so that's kind of how I survived in animation too, because it's a lot of fighting to get your name out there.
That first gig, right? What was the commercial one?
Blur Studio.
Blur Studio, yeah.
Yeah, and so no, it helped me in everything. It helped me. It's my meditation. You know what I mean? It still helps me today. Just disconnecting. You know what I mean? Because the stress. Even though I'm doing animation, there's a lot of stress. Mm-hmm. But when you come to jiu-jitsu, it clears you out. It tells you that it's not your life's not that hard.
yeah. Nothing. It's that bad, or it can be that bad, right?
No, it's not. And I think your
mind
take
things so serious.
Yeah, and your mind needs a moment to not think about the world. So when you're doing jiu-jitsu, and somebody's trying to armbar you, or you're rolling with somebody, all you can think about at that moment is jiu-jitsu. You can't think about like, oh, wait, I got bills to pay, or I got to do this shot tomorrow, or I got to do this. It's like you're just doing jiu-jitsu, so it's like it is meditation.
You're in the present.
Yeah, like I could never sit still and do meditation, but I can do jiu-jitsu. So it's like
me too.
And it's like that's helped me kind of.
That's meditation.
Yeah, it's totally meditation, and it's totally like like my wife used to get on me actually about going to jiu-jitsu, but then she saw how well it helped me, and now it's like.
You're better with your family. You're better with at work. You're better, just better.
Yeah, she's like, you need to go work out. If I'm getting cranked, she's like, go work out, go for an hour or two, and
start fighting with everybody.
Yeah, and then she's like, you're so happy when you come home, and you're like, because it's like the day you just feel good. It's just there's nothing better than it.
Yeah.
So.
What was I going to say? I always tell the story about there was like a high-level psychologist that trained at the Pasadena gym. We're back there now, right?
Yeah.
But we were just talking about how when you're a kid, everything's in the present, and as you get older, everything's in the past or the future, and so it basically brings you back to your childhood.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I went to India with my wife some years back, and there was one of the guides. He was like a PhD in philosophy. It was interesting being in India, right? And he was just talking about, they talk about sitting still, meditation, but like work is meditation too, right? Yeah. And so this kind of like these kinds of things like jiu-jitsu or, even wrestling, right? It's like you're in the moment, you're in the present, and nothing else matters.
Yeah. No, and
even for a few minutes a day, like sets you up for the rest of the day.
And I think for males, you got to get it. I think, and even this is what I'm doing with my kids, is like you got to get them tired. Like it has to be something to the point where like you're exhausted, and I don't know, something about your body getting exhausted to the point where like it's hard to get off that mat, or you had a match. It's like it's just
gave everything you had.
Yeah, resets your body in some way. Like I don't know the psychology about it, but it's like that's how I feel. It's like that's why I like to I like to compete, and I like to go pretty hard sometimes, like with the right people, and it's like it just makes you feel good when you're done.
Doing something hard, right?
Yeah.
They say like there's I keep forgetting her name, but she would travel around and teach people about the brain. Teach people about the brain, and she's like, we need nutrition, right? Air, food, and water, all that. Movement, challenge, right?
Yeah.
a newness and then like love, like connection and all that. So like jiu-jitsu for me, like gives you everything, like the challenge. You need the challenge.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a challenge.
Yeah.
You need to do something hard.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's, you know, a lot of people get down on the belt system, you know, sometimes like, you know, but that's kind of what that belt system, you know, even for an adult, you know, like it gave you that goal, you know, to strive for, because not everybody can get that goal.
Mm-hmm.
When people will say, oh, I could get that goal, but it's not, that's not true. But, you know, a lot of people fail on this goal. It takes a lot of time. You know, I've been doing jiu-jitsu since 2006.
2006, wow.
You know, just got my black belt last year, right? You know,
15 years.
Yeah, so
wow.
that's a long time to be doing
trying
to get it to a goal. You know, there were some stops in there, and there was some, you know, times I focused on different things like Muay Thai and things like that. But, you know, that's how long it took. You know what I mean? To do it legit. You know, not online or something.
Yeah. Buying your belt online. Yeah. How did you get started in jiu-jitsu? What was that? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was so like I said, when I got out of school, I was kind of like focused on my career, and actually I got really heavy. I got up to be about like maybe like 215 pounds. I'm like 5'8". You know what I mean? Because I was working at a computer all day, working 100 hours.
So it happens that you can focus on one thing, or you can focus on something else.
And I had always been doing wrestling, so
you know, I ate like and moving,
but I was used to all those calories, right? Like killing all those calories. And even in college, I hung out with the wrestlers and I would wrestle and I worked out. But then after college, I just kind of got fat and was a computer geek, you know. And my wife was actually like, I was always into Bruce Lee, and I always had this Bruce Lee, you know, fetish. And she found Dan Inosanto's down in Venice.
Yeah.
And so she was like, you should go here. And for my birthday.
Hey, your wife, huh? She's telling you to get back in there.
Yeah, and maybe because I was fat, maybe because she
just because, you know, she knows that's good for you. That's who you are. That's who you are.
Yeah, so she bought me a membership to Inosanto's, and it was around the corner from where I was working at Blur. And I started going there, and you know, he teaches. That place is an MMA gym. Well, it's not an MMA gym, but it's a mixed martial arts. Yeah, so you could do JKD, you can do Kali, you can do Shudo, and you could do Jiu-Jitsu. So what was nice, you could do all these, and Muay Thai. And so you could go there and take all these classes. So I just started taking all these classes like crazy. But I had my first Jiu-Jitsu class with this guy, Professor Jimmy Tang.
I know Jimmy, yeah.
Yeah, from Machado Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. Jack Machado.
Yeah, so and it was awesome. Like I was like, this is
cool,
this
man.
Is
Jimmy, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, Jimmy was a great professor. Like,
I
really enjoyed working
Smart,
with him.
super technical.
Yeah,
But like a good butterfly guard, right?
Yeah, really good butterfly. And I like the butterfly guard. I still have that butterfly guard to this day. And but you know, it was impressive because he was smaller.
He was like on his social media was Wu Tang or something like that.
Yeah.
Like some because I went to high school in Staten Island, so like I was like Wu Tang, Jimmy Wu Tang or something like that.
Yeah, it's something Jimmy Wu Tang. It's like a lot of food on his Instagram. But no, man, he was a great guy, and he started taking me around, and we had this little crew of people, which. It's funny, almost everybody's a black belt now that he kind of started there. So we had a little crew that worked out there, and he got us real into jiu-jitsu, and we'd kind of compete and stuff like that. He'd take us around. But it was these little moments.
It's interesting, right? Because it's like you started with Jimmy, and it's like the same lineage. Yeah. In a way, right? Jean-Jacques Machado, he was like a mentor to Draculino. You know, for Gracie Baja, like it's crazy. That like you went there.
Yeah.
And all those he did, you know, shout out to Jimmy, right? Professor Jimmy, right? Like he did great work with, you said, like all those guys ended up going all the way to black belt.
A lot of those people from that little school, and it really, he really, you know, one thing is I was still pretty athletic, and I was a good wrestler. So when I was in a lot of these classes, you know, I was beating people most of the time, like taking them down. And Jimmy came in and he showed me what jiu-jitsu was, right? Because he would sub me like. You know, at will. We get that nice butterfly guard, you pressure to him. He was
sweep you, boom, take you over,
he
control on top.
I do takedowns, but then like all of a sudden, like he was winning, you know, and then he introduced us.
He was a smaller guy too.
Yeah, smaller guy. So that was like one moment, and then I had another moment. His professor was Jean-Jacques Machado, and he would come down for seminars, and I remember sitting in the seminar in Dan Inosanto's, and there was like maybe like 12 to 14 of us, you know, and he had come down, and he rolled with everybody. You know, I didn't even know who John Jack Machado was at the time, besides Jimmy saying it.
Yeah.
And I had it, and like I did some research, and you know, and I didn't know about his hand or anything.
Yeah.
And he rolled with every single person in this circle, and subbed everybody, and went through everybody, and I tried so hard to take him down, to take John Jack Machado down, because I didn't know.
He stood up with you?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
he stood up, and I couldn't take him down. He laughed. He was laughing. Like, he has this little laugh, this, like, giggle sometimes. It rolled him maybe twice. And he just took me down and subbed me, and he was like nothing.
Good
and
job, my friend.
yeah, that kind of thing. And I was like, man, like, these guys, like, I saw this level of a black belt, like, from him and Jimmy that was, like, so good. You know what I mean? And I was like, it gave me this thing to strive for, because I was like, and he rolled with everybody. Wasn't even huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
Like, it was like,
showed you what a black belt is.
yeah, and like, as much as people came at him, he was just like, never lost his cool. You know, same thing with Jimmy, never lost his cool, just butterfly. Like, you know, like, and it was really cool kind of to get that inspiration, you know. But yeah, that was because I was on the west side, you know. But when I moved, that was when, like, I had to stop working out with Jimmy. So it was like, because I got the Disney job, and I was like, man, I can't come down to the west side.
Where'd you guys move to?
We moved to, well, we were first, Santa Clarita is actually, we moved right.
Oh, right to over there. Okay.
Yeah, because we were down in Redondo Beach.
Uh-huh.
And then once I got the Disney job, I was doing that commute. It was like an hour and a half in the morning. It was so bad. It was like, I was in the car for like 4 hours a day for just my commute, because sometimes you would get the traffic, it'd be like 2 hours, you know, to get there. So we moved up to Santa Clarita because even back then, down in Redondo Beach, you know, it's like $700K for 900 square feet.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like, I can't afford it. I was like, you know, I do well, but not California well, I guess. Yeah. So when I moved up to Santa Clarita, I was like, that's kind of.
You get a house, a normal, like, good house.
Yeah. So I moved there, and it took me a little bit to find a good place. But that's when I found you. So it was like, you know, because of the Disney thing. So
Yeah.
I went to David Dunn's for a little bit, but it was really hard getting back. He's up in Canyon Country, and I wanted to stay with Machado at the time because he's another Machado black belt.
Yeah.
But then I met AD, and AD and Chris Kerrigan got me here.
Okay.
Because I was a blue belt. David Dunn gave me my blue belt, and I was like a 6-7 year white belt, I think, or something like that.
Wow.
Because I was with Jimmy, and he was like, it was like 2 years.
Wow.
And then there was some time I started doing some Muay Thai. He started working at UCLA.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so
He was good friends with Felicia O. Did she ever come by?
Yeah, Felicia.
Uh-huh.
I know Felicia a little bit more from Peterson's and
Wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah. But that. So I stopped doing jiu-jitsu for like a couple years and did like more MMA. I met this guy, Rodrigo Armstrong, and Rod Armstrong, and he kind of did a lot of MMA with me, and I was like really into it, you know, like really into MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff. But I always had like a good job, you know. So I was like, I always wanted to fight, but it was always like this, like.
Do I get punched? Come up with a black eye? Or
yeah, my wife was like, "Why are you gonna do this?" And I was like, I probably should have done it a couple times, but that's why I like jiu-jitsu anyway. It's like, you know, jiu-jitsu is healthy. It's a lot healthier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it's a lot harder to go in there and get punched. You know. So, but yeah. Once I went to Dunn's, and then I found this place at lunch, it just worked, because it was like the lunch here is like so good. Like, you know what I mean? It's like so many. You know, sometimes you go to lunches and there's like 2 people. You know what I mean? 3 people, and you're like.
At another school.
Yeah, at another school, and then here is like, you know, 40 people, 10 black belts. You know, like, and like all
different
these
styles. Yeah.
Yeah, different styles. So it was like a dream, because like he was like, you should come over. AD was like. I remember they competed, him and somebody else competed in the in-house tournament, and they were down in Legacy, because I had been teaching Chris Kerrigan Muay Thai out back. So we would actually in Disney have pads and be out back doing Muay Thai and stuff like that, and doing some MMA stuff. And it was funny, because it's like you're in this animation studio, and then there was like, we ended up having like 6 or 7 guys at lunch hitting pads in the back courtyard. You know what I mean? So. That was pretty fun, but he was like, you should come over, you know, Legacy and see what the lunch is like. And then got here, and then that was it.
Nice.
You know, it's like, I guess almost 7 years.
7 years, yeah. Yeah. But then the pandemic happened, right? And everything kind of shifted.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody was working from at home, right?
Yeah. If I didn't have AD for that, that was like, I would have been crazy. Because I was like, at first, you know, I was pretty scared. You know what I mean? Like, just the whole thing.
Yeah. We didn't know, right, what was gonna happen, what was going on.
But like I said, that meditation, you need that meditation. You need that time to work out. And it was like, you know.
You had your the pod, right? Your little pod.
Little pod. Omar's in there a lot. You know, Jordan came up. Chris sometimes.
Sugar Bear.
Yeah. So it was cool though, and actually that
Chris, right?
Yeah,
Chris.
We would drill a lot in my backyard, and we called them mosquito mats because the mosquitoes got so bad back there. But
but you started. You did some TACFIT too, right? Online because the Zoom, right? Like you can't really do real jiu-jitsu. You can't do jiu-jitsu on Zoom, you know. No. But you could do TACFIT.
Yeah.
And was that the first time you did TACFIT?
I think I had done it one other time. You know, I was doing. You know, you had always talked about it, and I was always like, you know, I just love jiu-jitsu, and I just, anytime I could get here, I just wanted to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, but then, yeah, you're right. Like, kind of like the pandemic happened, and I was like, well, I'm going to work out a little bit more, you know. So I started doing some of those classes, and it really, I felt my body getting better. Like, I felt my body getting, like, just healthier. You know what I mean? I was doing some HIIT classes before that I kind of liked, and I felt that, like kettlebell classes and stuff. But what I was noticing is that was also injuring me, right? Like it was also like pretty intense. So it's like you're doing intense jiu-jitsu, then you're doing intense this, and I feel like the TACFIT stuff was it was like
balances you out.
Yeah, it balances you out. Like, you know, the 7-day, 5-day wave, and you know, doing the flow fit and stuff like that. And you could do it at home too, which was like really nice.
Just everything's balanced, right? Where we sit down too much, so opening up the hips, squeezing the butt, all those things, you know.
Yeah, and you couldn't even get kettlebells. Remember, I don't know. I remember like in the beginning of the pandemic, you couldn't get a kettlebell. Like they were like $500.
I lent out all the stuff just to kind of keep everybody going.
Yeah. So the body weight stuff was key. And I think that's like where I saw the value, and I started seeing the value in stretching. And there's just like some like little things, like even just the warm up,
the into flow.
Yeah, and like just the little warm up that you do where you kind of start moving. You know, you start
moving all your joints.
It helped me because I was getting foot locks like really used to hurt, and just doing those little squares with just putting the focus on it.
Yeah.
For some reason, like now it's like the foot locks don't hurt as much, right? Like it's like this.
You're more connected. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I saw a lot of value in that, and then I started seeing like what you were saying, where it's like you got to do both, Alessandro
it's the yin and the yang.
Yeah, Alessandro was saying that too.
Professor Alessandro,
Yeah, Professor X, he used to say that too. He's like, you can't do jiu-jitsu hard every day, because me and him would go at it a lot. Like, he loved, and it was fun, but he used to beat me up, so. And he's like, but you can't do it every day hard. Like, that's what he was saying. And I was like, yeah, you're right. He's like, especially if you want longevity.
Yeah.
In this sport.
He couldn't train you really couldn't train for a long time because every time he would train, he couldn't walk for a week just because his lower back would bother him. Yeah. And then he started doing the TACFIT stuff, the flows and stuff. And he's like, man, I think I can do it again. Yeah. Combined with that kind of stuff, like recovery based training, a TACFIT,
Yeah. Dude, when I first started doing club bells, I couldn't put my arm up.
Yeah.
I couldn't put my arm back. And then now it's like I can do a good club bell, but it was like the focus of doing these, because I don't know, sometimes even in jiu-jitsu, like you get stiff, right?
Yeah,
and you get into like your hands are in, you get into this kind of like your crouch, like even like I remember like
your body adapts to form follows function, right? So you can do the same things over and over.
Yeah.
Your body adapts and becomes that, right?
Yeah.
Like we sit down too much, and it's all the same kind of pattern.
Yeah. And even like when I was in Muay Thai, you like your neck starts shrinking up because you're trying to like keep your chin down, your shoulders up. So it's like just kind of like relaxing.
7 key components, right?
The
scaps down.
And, so going through that class, doing through the certification actually was really nice because it was like it taught me a little bit, like not just going to class, but it taught me a little bit more in depth those things. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed that because it just. The more you feel healthy, the better you feel. Like, again, like I've just, in the last, like, I would say maybe 10 years, I realized that being athletic and healthy and fitness should be a primary goal of everybody. Just your happiness. Like, you know what I mean? Just your body. Just like, it just does so many things to make you feel good. You know what I mean? Where stress of life will get to you.
Yeah.
You get all these people that are like, you know, always depressed and things like that. How many jiu-jitsu black belts you know that are depressed?
Yeah.
Not many,
Nobody,
right?
yeah.
I don't know any. I'm
Unless
just
they're
saying there
injured
may be
and they
some.
can't train, right?
Yeah, but it's like usually they're.
But if you do TACFIT, that won't happen.
Yeah, and there's a community to it too that I think has a lot to do with that. You know, we
Yeah,
have
for
a
sure,
family here,
for
and,
sure.
You know, so.
It's true though, right? It's like the yin and the yang. You want to be your best at every age.
Yeah.
As you get older, right? As you for life.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
and
know?
I'm seeing that like now.
And even young guys, if they do the stuff, it's gonna optimize their performance.
Yeah. It's funny when you see pictures of me. I look better now than I used to look.
It's crazy.
Back when I was like in my early 20s, like because I'm just healthier, you know, and I feel better. You know what I mean? So it's like, and all those things. I used to have like when I said I got a little heavy, I used to have asthma. You know,
It's
I used
funny,
to
huh?
have
That
like
happens.
allergies, like things like that. It'd be a hard time sleeping. You know what I mean? I had all these like I was on all these like medications always. You know what I mean? And it's like I still get allergies, but I don't think I've used an inhaler in like years. You know what I mean? Like, and if it is, it was probably because I was sick and like some, you know,
Yeah.
when you're sick, maybe it comes out.
Mhm.
But it's just
Interesting.
my whole body feels better. You know, I couldn't,
Interesting.
you know, sleep wise, things like that.
We were talking about the metaverse, right? And how we're on our phones, and things are more and more going to be moving in that direction, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of keeps you in touch with reality. It's one of those things, right? Like jiu-jitsu and TACFIT too, I think,
Yeah.
because you're going to be going back to Jersey and New Jersey. I keep saying Jersey, but New Jersey, right?
Everybody says Jersey.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that isn't going to go away because a robot can't do it.
No, and I think you're right saying
It's about that human connection that we don't understand, right?
Yeah, and I think people are gonna die for it soon, like because they're gonna die to have to do something physical outside of their work life. Because what was great about COVID, I mean, there was obviously a lot of bad, but what was great is like all these remote jobs, right? And that's why I'm moving back to Jersey, because now I can work wherever, and it opened up this door to try to go back to my family and bring some of this culture back to them. But people are going to strive for this like place to go that isn't the computer. You know what I mean? Like when I'm done with the day on my computer, I'm just like, I got to be out of here. Like you're on these Zoom calls all day. You're constantly like looking at a screen. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
It's not good for
your
soul.
eyes are you're not good for your soul.
Yeah, you need to be
unnatural.
Close to people, and you need to have that kind of feedback. You know what I mean? It's good for work. I think I'm just as efficient, if not more efficient, for my work, because there's not as many distractions and things like that. But for life balance, because a lot of people they get their culture from work, right? We get our culture from jiu-jitsu, but a lot of people get their culture from work. And if that culture's gone now, I can't go downstairs and hang out with or go for a drink with these people. Where are they going to do it?
That's what happened during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Some people went, like, especially the young kids, they're like, that their whole lives are, like, based around going to work and kind of communicating. Now they didn't have that, so a lot of them got depressed.
Yeah.
If you didn't have some sort of other source.
The highest suicide rate, right?
Yeah. Like, my kids were at home, so to me it was like, I got to hang out with my it was honestly positive in a lot of ways, right? It gave me this flexibility, and I got to hang out with my kids a lot more. My kids used to be in daycare from 7 in the morning till almost 6 at night.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And that was because I had to commute down there, come back and get them, and then I'd have to get them a little early to go sports and stuff like that. But now they're not even in daycare. So like when that stuff started happening, like for me at least, it was like, oh, I can't go back. I can't go back to this commute and doing these long hours at the computer. Because
before you know it, the kids are growing up, right?
Yeah, they're
years
gone.
go by. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's like already I can't believe my son's 10.
10. Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we started homeschooling our kids during we didn't send them back to school after when they were on Zoom, and we're like, now they're here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday all day. We get to have lunch and
I think you could do that when you have a jiu-jitsu culture, but if you don't have some sort of like culture like that, I don't know. I don't know much about homeschooling. I mean, we thought about it a little bit with our kids actually at one point, but I think when you still have to have that community.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and
No,
some
for
people
sure.
only get it at school.
For sure. I mean, during the pandemic, it was like, you know, the adults is one thing, right? Like losing their way of life. And the only thing that was for me, like, I was like, man, I got to take care of like my community. At the beginning, I was like, I got to close to protect the community. But it's like, you know, when you know, people wanted, they were coming in, like we had called it the Fight Club, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, like people were losing their minds.
Yeah.
And, you know, they lost all their way of life, people that worked in the industry.
Yeah.
And this is the only thing that would, you know, the consistency that keep them making the right decisions for themselves and their families, right?
Yeah.
And then the kids is a whole other story, right?
Yeah.
With that, just like they had no social interacting except for here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't take that away. That's wrong.
Yeah. And there was no options, right?
No, there's no options.
It's like, where am I going to send my kid? Like, I remember, I mean, we were doing jiu-jitsu out back, and I was making my kids do stuff like that. But like with me, you know, but they need that. They need interaction.
Peers, yeah. Other kids.
Yeah. And like my one son, he started kindergarten online.
Wow.
And I felt so terrible about that because he didn't get it. He didn't get it. He's looking at this screen, and he was like seeing all these other kids in the screen, but you know they mute you, and it's hard to. And he didn't understand really how to use the, you know, the space bar to talk and
Kindergarten online.
Yeah, and he.
Well, that's how they get you into the metaverse, right?
Yeah, but we were like really worried. We were like, you know, he wasn't doing that great. You know what I mean? Because he just couldn't focus on it. And then when he went to school, it was like night or day, man. You saw him how much he like actually enjoyed school, and he enjoyed the people going to school. And actually, I think of one value that I got from that is I think him at least, he's like, oh, it could be worse. We could be at home on these computers doing school. Now it's like I get to go to school. Like he actually made him appreciate going to school
having
a little bit. Yeah, and being able to like go and hang out because he loves school. You know, which is interesting.
What grade is he in now?
He's in first grade.
First grade, okay.
Yeah, so we got to go. Our school got to go at the end of kindergarten for like the last month.
Oh, okay.
So it was.
So you look forward to the next year.
Yeah, so you look forward to next year, and then in first grade's been all in person, which has been nice.
That's good.
You know, so it's.
Santa Clarita was more open too, right, compared to LA County.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit ahead of like LA County. LA County seems to be the strictest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got through it.
Yeah.
We got through it. And there's positives and everything, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be a new world, man. It's gonna be interesting, you know, to see how everything pans out.
Yeah.
You know, but like you said, to stay consistent. You know, I always come down here and I take the time, even though it's like a little bit farther. It's like this is my family. Like come down here, I feel good. It's like I don't really necessarily want to go anywhere else. You know.
Our Sunday mornings, right?
Yeah, Sunday mornings. You know, the people here.
It's like a dad's club.
Yeah, that's it. You know.
Get up before the family does, and be back in time to have the rest of the day to spend with them.
Yeah. I wish it was an hour later for me personally, but
for the Masters training.
Yeah. But Masters training's been great, man. There's been a lot of killers there lately.
Yeah, man. It's like the Sudhu was telling me, he was like, man, it's like that's like the toughest training. But Masters training, it's like the toughest training.
Yeah, everybody. It's almost like half of it's black belts. And half of it's like you know. So yeah, because I didn't have any easy rolls on Sunday, man. It was like Uday was there, and you know, like some other people. I was like, these are not easy rolls.
Yeah.
So.
And you're gonna go back and you're gonna move back to New Jersey, and you're gonna planning on opening up a legacy of jiu-jitsu and creating that culture in your hometown.
I want to bring it with me. If not, I think I'll be super sad. You know, I really want to. What I found here, I really want to spread and put out, and I think it's not only like it's a great business model, but it's also, you know, it's just a great culture. So, you know, I hope that's really one of the more exciting parts, I think, about moving home. It's like to kind of bring that and see how well it does between the TACFIT and the jiu-jitsu. And
it goes so well together, right?
Yeah, it goes. I think it's going to be awesome because I think it's like, you know, not everybody wants to do jiu-jitsu. But TACFIT's a cool way. It's almost like a martial art in itself, right?
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. Yeah.
And then if you show them a safe environment, you know, if you show, like, that's what I always liked about Legacy too. Is it's always you can go really hard here. You can compete. We have people that win competitions all the time, but you could also come in and not get hurt, you know, and you can kind of be a journeyman and like whatever. And I want to
depends what you need on that day, right?
Yeah, and it's like the community I think's always been really friendly, and that's kind of what I want to bring. It's like, you know, you get some meathead jiu-jitsu gyms that aren't for everybody, but I think jiu-jitsu is for everybody. It's just a matter of how you pull people into it and how healthy you can make it. You know what I mean? Where people feel safe and feel, you know, they have backing and they're not just getting beat up by a bunch of, you know, 18-year-olds or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
You know?
That's it.
And then
the right culture, adding the TACFIT.
Yeah, and then the kids and stuff like that. Like my kids starting wrestling and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, and growing them. I think it's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be a fun, you know, business opportunity. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, looking forward to the great work you're going to be doing out there, and combining your family with it, and spreading that positivity.
Yeah, I talked to a couple people out there already about, oh man, it's gonna kill it. It's gonna kill it out here, because it's like the Jersey needs some stuff like that. We got this wrestling culture. I mean, there's some jiu-jitsu there too, but it's like, you know, the workout culture isn't as strong there, and I think, you know, so I think there's gonna be some cool stuff we can bring to it. You know,
for sure.
Yeah,
man, I wanted to ask you about because we traveled to Vegas that one time, and to the Master Worlds, and we hung out, and you were telling me, I wanted to have a restaurant, and I wanted to be a cook, and you got really into it, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that was, you know, it's funny because I was about to open a restaurant with a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
And then we decided to move out to LA. It was like either LA or the restaurant, and it was because, you know, I grew up as I worked at a pizzeria.
Okay.
And I grew up, you know, managing the pizzeria and cooking and stuff like that, and I loved
cooking.
it. And then when I went to college, that's how I made my money. So I worked in the kitchen always, and I worked at some like nicer restaurants, and you know, when I kind of came out and saw what that graphic design kind of web design was going to give me, I was like, man, I'd rather be in the kitchen, because, you know, the kitchen is a cool, like, it's an interesting place because you get a similar thing almost as jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You got to be good at what you do. It's fast paced. You know, it's like every night is like
action.
You know, it's like a mission. It's like a competition. It's like, how can we get this out without any mistakes? So it was fun, and I wanted to do it. You know, I think it's just a work life. It was always a work life balance thing. You know what I mean? Because restaurants are probably the hardest things to own.
Yeah.
You know, they're just super intense. You know, they're always the worst hours. You know, but this just seems to be the things I like, you know, so, you know, it's still on the cards. I'll still figure it out. Maybe like a taco truck out there or something.
Maybe do a jungle cafe out there, combining everything.
That's it. You got the
whole jungle cafe.
Yeah, that's like a perfect
trifecta.
I think if you stay with the lunch crowd, you know, like you got like at the jungle, like it's like that's a good thing. If you're doing a night thing, I think that's where it starts getting like really hard. You know, when you have like a bar and stuff like that in your place, and
late nights, and
and you're always there, whatever. But yeah, man, I love cooking. I'm a good cook. You know, I do all kinds of foods and stuff. So it's like I still enjoy that. You know,
cool, man.
You know, I think I'm better at jiu-jitsu at this point. But
right on, man. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? You know, you like went all in to tell me about it. And I was like, wow, interesting.
Yeah, I went
you
down
never know about people, you know?
Yeah, I mean, financially, I got real close. We got real close to doing it, and, you know, it's a good investment you got to do, and I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like again, I always had this other career that was like doing really well, and it's it's hard to kind of do something that you know is going to be really hard sometimes. You know what I mean? But that's kind of I'm gonna jump into the gym because I think that could be the best of both worlds. You know, you're always gonna want to go to the gym, right? I know that about myself now. You know what I mean? I think
it's your lifestyle now, right? It's your lifestyle, your whole life, your whole life, and you can bring your family in, your kids, right? Be together.
And I think it could be, you know, it can be financially lucrative too.
For sure.
You know, so it's like your best of all the worlds. You know, so you know, maybe
coming soon.
It's coming soon. It's Jersey.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm excited for that, man. It's gonna be cool.
Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right.